Now that we understand how to work out various shifts, it's time to assign an etude. Hello to my fellow instrumentalists. Today we're going to be taking a look at Kreutzer 11. This etude is really great for this because it's written in such a way that there's essentially a shift every single beat. But many of the shifts are actually either very similar or literally identical, which allows for good repetition and reinforcement. So you've taken out this etude, you're looking at it, and we need to decide what we're going to do. How are we going to practice this etude? What's the point? I'll be using the first 4 measures of the etude to solidify your shifting technique. The first thing we're going to do is a little bit of composing. Though we can and will still use the Yost method, on each shift we will specifically be using the idea of the guide shift. If you've never heard of the guide shift before, it's essentially a reduction of the Yost method. It's just a smaller and simpler version. For example, if we take the very first bit of the Kreutzer etude, those first 6 notes, and we wanted to apply the guide shift, we would do this. What a guide shift is you take the finger that's departuring, the finger before the shift, and you move it along the string it's already on into the position that it will be going into. And then you actually hear and play that arrival note. In this case, in Kreutzer, we're going from a G sharp, second finger, and we're going to shift into 3rd position. That brings us to a B natural on the E string. And we'll want to hear that note before we play the next note, which would be another G sharp on 4th finger on the A string. You're going to do this with every single shift. In other words, we're going to recompose and add a note after every 3 notes. So instead of it looking like a group of triplets and triplets and triplets and triplets, we're going to essentially change this from all these 8th notes to a bunch of 16th notes. So the first 4 measures will now look like this. Notice that sometimes we actually do not shift, but in order for it to stay consistent and to work out, we're going to repeat the note value and the note that we're not shifting from. So we repeat the note, just to keep it consistent. Once we've decided to approach the etude in this fashion, we'll start by playing everything détaché with old bow shifts. Once that becomes comfortable for a section, in this case for the first 4 measures, you will then add slurs back in. You'll start by adding slurs for every 4 notes. Notice whenever there's a repeated note, I just tie it in and make it essentially the value of an 8th note. Once you're comfortable with the slurred guide note version, we will then eliminate the guide notes and reduce the slurs to 3 notes per bow, which gets us closer to the original text. That'll look something like this. As you can see, when we're doing the shifts, we're actually still thinking about doing old bow shifts. Finally, when that's all comfortable, you can move on to adding 6 notes to a slur, and then finally the actual printed 12 notes to a slur. At any point, you can feel free to add a metronome to your practice. Just be sure to put it at a setting that's appropriate. Too many students make it too fast, too soon. That's probably a topic for another series, how to practice with the metronome, but that's beyond the scope of our current one. If you're liking what you're seeing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. so that you don't miss the last video of the series and then any topics that I decide to elaborate on in the near future. If there's anything you want me to take a look at, like metronome work, please be sure to leave it in the comments below.